All right. Good. I think I have managed to start streaming to the right location despite having gravely messed with all of my streaming software to stream over Christmas. So I think we're good. Welcome to the purple zone. We're trying this now. We're trying the purple zone. Oh, my light is like... what the heck? There. Something like that. All right, we're good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the vibes for the septoplasty. We're sticking with that. Last week, feeling better than expected, but remaining conscious this late is a no-go. Just wanted to do a quick hi and bye. Well, thank you for stopping by, Ren. I am glad to hear that you are doing well. Surgery is always a crapshoot, and thanks for checking in. Yes, happy Friday, everyone. Happy post-Christmas. We are in the very bizarre time of year where we are between Christmas and New Year's. We're all just floating around, not really sure what's up or down. I am having my Christmas tomorrow, so I'm not quite in that state yet, but we could be. And Bandita is as close to the camera as physically possible, so you're getting the primo Bandita viewing experience right now. It is very purple. It's very hard to actually make purple. It goes from like pink to blue very quickly. And like this even is kind of borderline. Did someone say vampire and monsters? Yes, Bonnie. Yes, Bonnie, we did. So I have not seen Nosferatu yet. Legitimate warning. Actually, I don't really care. But don't try to be mean on purpose and spoil Nosferatu for me. I know, and so spoilers that I know about currently, which are not really spoilers because they're not related to the plot, but whatever. You know, Lily Rose Depp, surprisingly good in the role. Costuming on point. Set design on point. Also, there's dong. There's apparently in Nosferatu. There's a couple little quick seconds of full frontal uncut penis. Like literally non-surgically altered dong. And people just they've gone feral for it. They want more. What can they, people have heard legend of this and they want more. And I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see if somebody wants to see it with me. I don't really go to movie theaters, okay? I don't I went in theaters, the last time I went in theaters that I willingly went to, because I've been dragged to movies before. I've had ex-partners that like to drag me to movies I didn't give a shit about seeing, like the fucking Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'm sorry, didn't care about that one, not my jam. But I did go see the last John Wick movie in theaters. I did see that by myself, which was great. If you've ever been to the movie theater alone, it's actually kind of baller. You should go. You should go to the movies alone. Get to sit wherever you want. You don't have to worry about chatting with anybody. It's just you and your snacks you don't have to share and the movie. And that's how it should be. Plus, when you're by yourself, you don't have to find two seats side by side. You can sit any damn where you want to. And that is a beautiful gift, I think. I just saw Nosferatu today. Actually did not like it. He tried hard to make it vulgar, but that's about it. Nothing, absolutely nothing compares to Coppola's. Well, I mean, there's Dracula and then there's Nosferatu, right? So I guess they're sort of same genre, but not the exact same monster. I will say the one person I know personally who reviewed it on Twitter is a pro-dom, and she gave it 2 stars, and she gave Baby Girl, which is A24. This is it is movie time, people. We are being served in the theaters currently, okay? We've got Nosferatu, Frankenstein's coming out. We've got, what is the other thing we have? I just totally blanked on. But Baby Girl, the one I just mentioned. Movie season is happening. There's a Count of Monte Cristo movie coming out at some point, apparently. I don't know. It's all happening. And I am probably more excited to watch Baby Girl, which I would love to review for the channel. So if you haven't heard of Baby Girl yet, let me tell you about it. Baby Girl is an A24 Pictures movie. Nicole Kidman of Eyes Wide Shut and many other movies, playing an older CEO lady, a la Christian Grey, but not really, who gets involved extramaritally with an intern in a power exchange DS relationship where she's like the powerful CEO but also submissive and he's kind of dominant. That's all I know so far. I haven't seen it yet. But the second it comes out digitally, I will watch it. I am not seeing that in theaters because I need to be able to get movie clips to talk about it in a review. So I have to wait until it's like digitally available so that way I can actually like talk about it. You know, talk about it for a movie review because we are so rarely blessed with BDSM movies. And the press I have seen on it so far seems to largely be positive. I feel like the last time I looked, it had 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which for like a horny BDSM movie, I feel like is pretty good. Like, it's like horror movies, right? Like, if it's like 5 out of 10, that's like really good. That's like, oh, that's a really good movie. Like, we gotta scale it, you know? It's on a curve. You can't just, it's not gonna ever be a Marvel movie 9.8 out of 10. Like, not gonna happen for Baby Girl. So I'm expecting decent things. Do I think it's gonna be good? Maybe not. Do I think it'll be entertaining? Yes. Do I think it'll be entertaining? Yes. Can we get a big budget vamp movie for Carmilla? Bring on the lesbian dark romance horror movie. I'm just gonna say anything involving lesbians. Yes, please, dear God. I would love to do like a Duke of Burgundy, but like with vampire ladies would be like almost ideal. Like sort of like it's sort of John Wick-esque in the sense that there's like, oh yeah, there's this like parallel universe where there's like assassins, except for like, oh well, this is like our universe, but instead like every lesbian collects butterflies and is part of like a butterfly collecting community, when then everyone else makes BDSM furniture, and that's the GDP of the nation is 50% pinned butterflies, 50% BDSM furniture, and that makes sense. Like, in that kind of way, but then make it a monster movie with lesbians, and then, like, I don't think there could be a better film. I think that we should just wrap it up, close up Hollywood, close down the sets. We've done it. We've finished movies. We've accomplished all there is to do in movies. Yeah. Lots of people seem to be split on Nosferatu. I've seen mostly positive reviews about it, but there's a few who just didn't like it. Still gonna check it out for myself. Looks beautiful from the previews. Yeah, I'm not expecting like Dracula 2.0. It seems like a very different movie vibe-wise. Like, I'm expecting more like The Lighthouse. You know, I'm expecting something that is like weird, and, like, the thing I've seen from the reviews is it's about, like, you know, when you're just, like, horny for, like, a kinda ugly, like, older guy. And, you know, y'all don't know everyone I've dated, but, like, I do have a trend of pursuing age gap relationships, like, non-intentionally. So I feel like that's kind of relatable in a way. Like, you know, yeah, you just, like, this man has this, like, sort of... What if Danny DeVito was Nosferatu? What if Danny DeVito was Frankenstein? What if Danny DeVito was Lestat? Don't knock it until it's been put on film, okay? It could work. It could be good. But really, though, like, you just get these, like, funny-looking dudes with, like, this very raw, like, charismatic energy. And then manosphere far-right people who, by the way, can't even lift weights. If you want to, like, feel better about yourself in the gym, go on Twitter and find the video that Andrew Tate posted on Christmas Day doing lat raises. And if you don't know anything about weightlifting, just, you're supposed to lead with your elbows is the cue. He's basically just lifting with his traps. It's like, how have you been training for this long, Andrew, and you never learned how to do a lat raise properly? So watch that, feel better about yourself, and don't listen to them when they tell you that women just want hot buff dudes. No, we want charismatic, weird little goblins, okay, that have interesting hobbies that they can teach us about, and that respect us, okay? Funny, interesting hobbies possibly a monster. That's really it, honestly. If you do those 3 things, women will like you. Women will like you. I like rom-coms, but they don't make them anymore. Every good movie should end in a wedding scene. That is so true. We're bringing back, we're on the timeline now. We're bringing back the horny erotic thriller. And I think when we unlock the horny erotic thriller, the rom-com, its natural component, the natural flip side of the coin to the horny erotic thriller, that has to come back, okay? It has to. Now, I love The Holiday. That's my favorite movie. Some people don't like it. Well, my favorite rom-com. It's not my favorite movie. I don't really have a favorite movie. I don't watch enough movies to have a favorite. But we're going to bring it back. It's on the timeline. It's going to happen. Okay? It will happen. Hopefully we won't get like a resurgence of like Westerns or something, first. It's in there. It's on the queue. DeVito was a boss bang when he could pull it off. True. Danny DeVito was Carmilla. Oh, God. He could be a lesbian, whatever. Just release all roles to the best thespian that can play the role. Andrew Tate does 1 million lightweight reps on machines from what I've seen, which is like fucking hilarious because what's his face from Fresh and Fit? I think the one who actually calls himself Fit does the same thing. He fucking deadlifts less than I do, and it's very funny to me. That'll never not be. Anytime I'm in the gym and I feel bad because it's like, oh, I had to take a break, because I like went to a convention or something and like I'm recuperating and my ass is purple, so I can't go to the gym for like a week. When I come back and I've like lost 5 pounds on this lift or whatever, I feel better about myself because I remind myself that I still lift more than Fit does. And then I feel better. I'm reading Lights Out by Navissa Allen and the humor in it. Love it. Okay, I don't know what genre is that. I would love a BDSM movie with humor. Oh, I mean, well, it's not really like a humor movie. I do feel like Love Unleashes has, like, it's like and people who watch this on Patreon or watched the recording of it know the scene where one of the characters starts role-playing as a dog for the first time. I fell out of my chair laughing. That was the funniest shit I'd ever seen in a BDSM movie, point blank period. It was so realistic. It was so like, yes, that is me. I feel seen. And like, it was so unexpected. My heart filled with joy upon seeing that. And it was really funny. But I don't even know if it was like intentionally funny, but I thought it was funny. Dan DeVito's Nosferatu makes you think of Always Sunny, where he gets his makeup done at a funeral home. I don't know if I've seen that one. I'll have to look it up. I don't know if I've seen that episode. There's so many seasons of Always Sunny, and I feel like I've seen, like, probably 4 seasons worth of full episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But there's like 13 or 14. It's like as long as Supernatural. I think that's the only thing I can think of that has that many seasons in it. Not very alpha if y'all have to be fucking hysterical and women like a 5-year-old. I know, it's like, calm down. I mean, roid rage would explain some of the behavior. An explanation, not an excuse. Preaching the Perverted is a humorous BDSM movie. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, I haven't watched that in so long. I should rewatch that actually. It is a good one. Was it intentionally funny or was it just funny? Because I don't remember if they were going for comedy. Also, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Rin gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. Welcome to all the new members. We just started talking about Nosferatu. I didn't even do any of the spiel. Okay, let me do the spiel. Okay. Okay, so welcome to the new members. Hi, hello. This is an 18 plus only live stream where I, your host, Evie Lupine, talk about pop culture, BDSM, kink, sexuality, dating, polyamory, and other such topics as float my boat on that particular day. This is an interactive Q&A where you guys ask questions and answer them, and sometimes we talk about Danny DeVito, and sometimes we talk about how to find the love of your life on dating apps and everything in between. And we have rules down below if you haven't seen those yet. Really simple. Just be respectful, listen to the mods, listen to me, and then don't spam the chat. Emotes or whatever is fine, but if you're like asking the same question like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, out of spite, I will not answer you because I refuse to indulge in that behavior thereby incentivizing it. So we don't answer people who spam. I do answer questions in the order they come in. So I always recommend asking your question early, because when we get to like the middle part of the stream, I tend to like lose questions because YouTube's chat functionality is like not always the best at scrolling backwards. And then I do give people, when possible, like a 20 to 10 minute warning that we're wrapping up, and then you get a chance to re-answer your question. But if you answer it back to back to back to ask it back to back to back to back, I'm not going to see the 10th time you ask sooner than the first time, because I'm looking backwards through time at the previous chat. So just don't spam me, okay? Just that's it. Just be respectful. All right. I'm zooming in on my dog, who has decided I'm not cool enough to hang around, I guess, right now. Oh, by the way, for people who want a Bandita update, she did go to the vet. And I got her test results back. First of all, I have had to correct this vet like 10 times that Bandit is a girl. She had babies. She's been spayed. She's a girl dog. And in every single communication, they refer to her as a he. And it drives me nuts. Because I'm like, how do you miss that? What is the quality of care here if we can't even see that, like, it says F next to sex on the fucking page, you know? Because I know I've had them correct it before, but they still call her he, and it drives me nuts. But her results came back normal. She's not sick with anything. She has a little bit of, like, low thyroid levels, you know, potentially maybe some mild hypothyroidism happening, need further testing to see if that's actually happening, or if it's just kind of like a blip on the radar of like, oh, just that day she had a little bit of like thyroid suppression for some reason, you know, because she's not been feeling well. But nothing major seems to be wrong, other than probably food allergies / maybe something happening with her thyroid, but not like a crazy amount, just like a little bit. So I was happy to hear that, but she's doing okay. Still need to figure out what it is exactly that she's allergic to, because I've not determined that as of yet. That's going to be the next step, but she's not, doesn't have anything major wrong. So there we go. Good news. Minimum news is good news, I suppose. Glad you could catch us live. Thanks for being here. All calls will be answered in the order received. Yeah, exactly. It's like leaving a voicemail message. Exactly. I have a girl dog having trouble still, and she wouldn't have the issue if she was a boy, so that's kind of a big deal. Exactly. Like, it's like, if you, like, I don't know how much that really affects, like, the medical care that a dog's receiving, but, like, you know, has to matter at least, like, a little bit. At least a little bit, right? Bluey gets misgendered too. It happens to the best dogs. That's true. It doesn't say anything about her personally. Just people are ignorant. I actually do wonder if it's worse because isn't there a character in Bluey that's named Bandit? Isn't that, like... I have to be careful to say Bandit very quietly. That might also, I imagine there's been an influx of people naming their dogs after Bluey characters. Could be a change on official chart, but probably not in visit notes. Okay. Well, I don't know where they've changed it. I've like called them. I tell them every single time I come into the office, and it just keeps happening. So at this point, I think they're just trying to spite me, to be honest. 2 TV series that had more than the occasional instance of BDSM were Farscape and Lex. I've not heard of Lex before. Farscape I had heard of. I've never watched either one of them. I'm going to guess Farscape, and I'm looking it up, is like a sci-fi thing, and I feel like it probably involves some kind of portal type situation happening. Farscape... It's American and Australian, or even Australian-American. Put the Australian first. There's puppets, apparently. 88 episodes, wow. All right, what's the deal? Is there some kind of teleportation happening? All right, they're in a biomechanical ship. They accidentally fly into a wormhole. I feel like that counts. There is a wormhole. I feel like that counts. I think I'm right, okay? That was like, what were we doing? In the 90s were just like every show was like, what if it was in space and there were hot ladies? What if we put hot ladies in space? That's just the whole concept for the show. But what if we did different hot ladies? What if this hot lady's part robot? What if this hot lady's blue? Like, just do that over and over and over again. And they keep watching it. Oh, I'm cracking myself up. I'm having a good time. Listen, Christmas was a little rough because my plans got messed up, but I'm feeling great today, honestly. They poked fun at how people mistake Bluey for a boy in one episode, as they should. As they should. Lex has a movie that's really good. The show itself was like just okay. Oh yeah, it's Bluey's dad. I've not seen enough of Bluey to know that from the top of my head. It's being released on YouTube for free? Oh. That's the best kind of show. Hot ladies in space. I mean, for a certain kind of person, it definitely is. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I just missed the era where that was like exciting. I'm kind of tired of space stuff, to be honest. I like to see stuff that has like trees and isn't shot in the California desert, you know? Isn't just styrofoam. Getting into nature, you know, but not in just like everything's ferns. I feel like every single time it's like, oh, it's an alien planet, but it's green. It's like ferns everywhere. And it's like, I go in my damn backyard and see that. I want to see something exotic and different. I always wanted to catch one of the streams early. Hello, you are the internet people. I mentally rant my frustrations with neo-Puritan internet bullshit too. Well, I'm glad I could be that vent for you. I guess I'm technically my own vent for that, and then occasionally I will rant to a friend or a partner about it, and then they're just like, I'm glad that you know all of this, but I don't know any of this. And I'm like, you don't understand. I have to monitor the rise of fascism on the internet vis-a-vis fundamentalist Christian Instagrammers, okay? And Andrew Tate and people who write think pieces for The Atlantic about how polyamory is a bourgeoisie, you know, decadent, you know, anti-working class frivolity, okay? Like, I have to track these things. They're in my brain. There's a really obscure 90s sci-fi sitcom called, oh my god, Homeboys with a Z from Outer Space. I love that. It also sounds like I should be afraid that it could be racist. But, you know, it was the 90s. That was, you know, racism, space, hot ladies. That's how we made television back then. Yeah. Some could just make a show as an anthology of hot ladies in space concepts, yeah. But not in a, like, porn parody way. Like, it has to still be an actual show. Ooh, I hate to bring the room down, but do you think it's harsh to cut off friends/family if they voted for Trump? I spent Christmas alone this year because both my parents did. I mean, you know, I think that's a personal decision. I would never make any kind of blanket statement about, you know, whether or not that's always going to be the right or the wrong answer. I think if that makes the most sense to you because, like, you know, you're queer, you're trans, you're part of some group that could be affected, you know, by his policies, I think it makes sense to not want to be around them and to kind of, in some way, show them that there are consequences for their actions. Because unfortunately, a lot of people that do, you know, vote very conservative or are typically more conservative leaning, a lot of them have these, like, very weird ideas about family in the sense of, like, you know, family sticks together no matter what, which means if I vote against your rights, you still have to come home for Christmas or else. And it's like, Mom, I'm 35. You can't make me come home for Christmas. I have an apartment. I have a job. You can't make me do anything. And I think if you don't feel safe going back to that environment, you, like, shouldn't go back to that environment. Because, like, who wants to be in a place where you know that you're the odd one out and they're all going to be jammering on about whatever Fox News thing, and at best you're gonna have to sit there and silently take it, or they're gonna make you, like, answer for the sins of Hillary or Kamala or Joe Biden. You know, almost forgot about him for a second. You know, and, like, why would you do that? But, like, you know, it just depends on your family dynamic, like, especially if you weren't already very close to begin with. You know, I think if your family just suddenly out of nowhere is, like, hard turn to voting for Trump and they didn't do that previously and, like, they've gone down some kind of weird conspiracy theory route, you know, maybe seeing them as a way of, like, course correcting a little bit and be like, so, that's AI, you're on Facebook, that's not real, if you feel like you can do that, but not everyone can. But yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone. But certainly people who vote for Trump would, not all of them maybe, but a lot of them would blame, liberal family members for not being willing to be around them in the holiday season because, the woke establishment is anti-family or whatever. But you can't let them control you. You're an adult. It could be Hot Lady Twilight Zone. Very timely, very sci-fi, very concepts, very deep. I would be so for that, except for I don't think that we're going to get that because didn't they just do a Twilight Zone reboot on Netflix or something? I don't know if that panned out or not. But with hot ladies, imagine, I don't know who I would cast for anything, but I think it could be really good. Of course, then it'd be woke because of course, one of the most critical roles in television is being in the Twilight Zone. And we keep stealing the men's jobs. If they can't be in the Twilight Zone, they're not going to be anywhere. They're going to be unemployed. I'm going to have to cut off my family because I'm LGBT, disabled, and half Native American. Mostly because I'm LGBT, specifically non-binary, pansexual, and aromantic. Hey, well, you're welcome here. And it is, unfortunately, a long part of the history of marginalized communities in the United States that we oftentimes have to find our own families. We have our own found families. And because of the fact that our families can't or won't accept us, and we can't feel safe around them. So we have to be with each other. I think that's why having community is so important, both for our health, for support systems, and for just having that sense of community that I think people do really need. I'm kind of a loner. Most people I interact with are somewhere on the loner spectrum. I don't really tend to be friends with people who need constant human connection all the time. But even for people who are loners, we do still need to have human contact sometimes because, we are, at the end of the day, social creatures. And it's important to have people that, respect us and understand us. And if you're around family that, doesn't love you, people say, oh, I'll love you no matter what. But you know what? That's not always true. There are people out there that are hateful, that will be disgusted by who and what you are, and they will make that known in an attempt to try to get you to be something that you're not, because it is more comfortable for them. So, we want to be around people that accept us, and being around people that don't love us, that have conditions on their love, that don't support us, that think that something about who we are is bad and gross and wrong. That's not good for our brains to be around that. And it's one thing if it's your family's oh, well, you have a gambling problem and you stole, all of grandma's jewels in order to fund your habit. Okay, that shame makes sense in that scenario. There are times when shame and guilt make sense. But if it's just they found out you dated a girl in college, that's not their beeswax. Okay, you think I'm going to go to hell, and your solution to that is shaming me, which is going to help me get into heaven by doing what? Yeah, it just is not helpful. It's not good to be around. Listen, this is a lesson I learned in 2024, y'all. This is a lesson I learned. Don't let your brain stew and simmer in toxicity. It is very bad for you. And sometimes, especially when it's a familiar environment, you won't even realize it's happening because it will go on for so long. If you've been living with family or with people who don't accept you, or you have a toxic relationship or something, and you just float around in that, you're encased in amber or formaldehyde or something, it's gonna feel normal. And then you're gonna get out of it. And then it's gonna feel weird because you're gonna be in a totally new environment. But when you're out there in the fresh air, not full of amber or formaldehyde, you're gonna be oh, this is what breathing feels like. This is what being normal feels like. This is what it's like to not be sad and upset every single fucking day and feel bad about myself every single fucking day. Because when that's your life, because people around you shame you for who you are and your identity or whatever, it really takes a number on you, and that takes time to recover from. But when you get to a place where you can have that stability, that security, that self-esteem, it will make your life better. Anyways, I don't know why I'm ranting about that, but Genuinely, I think a lot of people, they get stuck in this like inertia of like, well, nothing's ever going to be better and no one's going to accept me. This is the best I'm ever going to get. And they stay stuck in the poison. Don't stay stuck in the poison. I know it can be hard. I know life circumstances, whether it be like disability or lack of education or lack of resources, maybe you can't drive. Like, it makes it harder to be living on your own or to get out of your current scenario. But even taking small steps towards more independence and being out of that environment more often, like with a job, like being able to drive, like having maybe community online that you spend more time with, that can make it better to at least get yourself on essentially like kind of emotional life support enough to be like, oh, this is bad. I shouldn't be here. How do I get out? Yeah. It's a negative feedback loop. Yep, it's so freeing to remove negative people from your life for real. I'm so grateful my parents aren't here anymore, but healing takes time. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're like, I'm glad my parents are gone. Like, that's a really rough spot to be in. But that healing process, it's a whole thing to get from like being in the poison to outside of the poison and being like a fucking fish, flopping on the deck, going, oh my god, what's happening? I'm in a new place, and getting into a healthier, safer position. And then once you're in that healthier place, then starting to heal, that's like a multi-year thing sometimes. Like, hey, if you were in a bad scenario for like, let's say until you were like 18 or 20, that's like 20 years of like, it's not impossible, but it's not to say that like, it's so much stuff, you have no hope, not that at all. It's just like, you have to have patience with yourself. It took 20 years to jam all those negative thoughts in there. It's going to take a while to, tap them back out, okay? You're going to have thought patterns and weird expectations. And the longer you're outside of the bad environment, the more you're going to be like, oh, people don't think that way. That was just my mom. Oh, and then you can unpack it, you can unwind it, you can undo that thread, and then it becomes easier, right? Like, I've had so many things I've heard of in my life, stories from people and my own experiences of just like the stuff that you learn from relationships that you swear up and down is like, but that's how they told me the world works. And then you don't.
Donated $5.
And then the world doesn't work that way.
I feel like taking the route of Rick Blaine in Casablanca is imperative. Fight for what's right, but also be detached from the world to a degree, as literal fascism is descending upon you for your own sanity.
In times like these, I feel like taking the route of Rick Blaine and Casablanca is imperative. Fight for what's right, but also detached from the world to a degree, as literal fascism is descending upon you for your own sanity. Yes. Especially when you can get distance from it in your personal life. It's going to be critical to like maintaining well-being for your overall health. I think that's important for sure. Also, I don't have a job currently, but I'm thinking about getting a job at my local burger place. I mean, hey, like anything to like get out of the house, meet new people. And like, I liked working food service. I think it's a good way to like be chummy with people. Even if it's just like being a dishwasher or something, like being a bus boy, being a bus person. I don't know what they call them these days. We didn't really have bus boys where I worked, but just having some kind of job where you meet new people and get out of the house can be just like a breath of fresh air to know, like, and then when you need to get out of the house, you can just say, oh, I have to pick up a shift. Oh, so-and-so needed me to cover for them. Then you always have an excuse to not be there if you need to leave. Yep. Yeah. When you're finally in a good scenario, one of the hardest things is realizing how much time you lost. Yes, Violet Melody, that is, well, great name to go with that sentiment, I think, but it's like, that's something that I definitely have struggled with, and I think as, I'm only 30, I'm not like, I'm not toast yet by any means, although I did find the start of my first gray hair right here. It's like, I have this much of one hair where I can see it's growing in like gray now, like right here. And I'm kind of stoked because like my dad actually I remember my whole childhood, he had like this white forelock of hair, like kind of like rogue, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So like, maybe I'll just have like a white stripe in the front of my head. I think that'll be really cool. My mom also was like totally gray by like by 30, so like I didn't have any expectations for my life that I'd have dark hair for very long, but in any case, dying is always an option. But to get more to the point of the idea of feeling sad for the time that we've lost, I think that's a really common sentiment. And it's one thing when you're like, 18, and you can tell yourself, oh, well, I'm only I'm only 18, I have so much time left, I've barely started my life. When you get to be like 30 or 40 and you can see, wow, like if you're getting like a divorce or something, right? You were married for like 10 years. You're like, oh my God, like all of my 20s, all of my 30s were spent with this fucking person who I'm not compatible with. And now I got to start over again from scratch. And like that really hurts. And I think the advice that a lot of people tend to leap towards is like, oh, don't feel sad about it. It's okay. Things will work out. And I think we have a tendency, like culturally across the board, to not give ourselves permission to feel grief or mourn things, because if you just stuff it down, you can get back to like normal quicker, which means being a like productive member of society, right? Yeah. I have a whole gray patch at 21. Yeah. 18 now with lots of grays. Yeah, some people are like, I don't even know what counts as premature gray. I thought that 30 was premature, but like at 21, okay. My hair started spotting a gray streak by my mid-20s, though I'd also been electrocuted a lot by then, so I blame that. Like in a kink context? Or like, were you at a state facility where they still did what's the depression thing they do where they shock you? The electroconvulsive therapy. Like, kind of horrifying. I'm assuming, hopefully it's kink stuff, but also maybe Frankenstein experiments were happening. I don't know. The Hucker era is just having self-confidence. True. Also, welcome, Sean. Glad you could make it again. Thanks for being here on Christmas. But yeah, the advice that people tend to give is like, just don't worry about it. You have time still, blah, blah, blah. And it's very much about like getting back to normal, not worrying about it, not thinking about it, get back to being on track. And I think that really does people a disservice, because those emotions are going to come back to get you one way or another, okay? They can only stay compressed for so long. It's like a snake. It's one of those like fake snakes in the fake peanut can, One day, without warning, the lid's gonna be a little too loose, and there's gonna be like a little earthquake. It's gonna fall off the shelf and spring out, and then it's gonna break all your collectibles or something, okay? This is a very weird analogy, but it's going to come out one day. And so it's never really going to work if you just say, oh, it's fine, whatever. No, it's okay. It's okay to feel sad. You have my permission as a human being, human to human. You have my permission to feel sad about the fact that you spent 2 years, 5 years, 10 plus years on a person, a job, a dream that didn't end up working out. That's okay. It's okay to feel grief about something. And when you go through the grief, then you can really start to heal and actually like really feel better once you allow yourself to experience that grief process, which there's books about that. I'm not qualified to tell you how to do that grief process, but it is something that's like, if you want to do it, go through with it. Oh my gosh, thank you, Sean. Sean gifted 10 more memberships. Thank you. Everyone in the chat's going to be a member. I love it. By the way, if you want to be a member, you need to go to your YouTube settings. If you want to get a free gifted membership, you have to turn on the ability to receive gifted memberships. So check that out if you haven't. You have to remember that sometimes gray hair is brought on by life events, regardless of age, like a stay in a vampire castle or a piece of performance art gone out of control. Like electroshock, maybe? Oh my gosh, and thank you, Twixie. Twixie also gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. I started talking to this nice dom recently. Ooh, congratulations. ECT is used in cases of severe intractable depression. It is done under anesthesia now. Well, thank God they do it under anesthesia now. I do, I have heard of one person that tried all the different antidepressant medications. They did all of the different therapy forms. They did all other kinds of interventions, and then they did do ECT, and it did seem to help them. Yeah. I'm currently writing a story about a non-binary superhero who goes into an old mansion to save their ex-girlfriend from a couple of their own villains. Ooh! Keep writing. That's my advice. Always be writing. Always be writing. Always be selling. Always be shopping. Always be writing. That's not a thing anyone says. I had to work with a lot of young people /teens /early 20s. One girl, 18, was suffering from teenage arthritis and relied on me to lift things for her. It made me rethink youth admiration. Oh, like puppy love type stuff? Or, yeah. But also just like helping young people, I think, is really important. Like being kind of involved communally, cross-generationally in a healthy way is important. I made 2 friends in college this year. I'm pretty sure both of them are non-binary, just like me. Both of them use he, they pronouns. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. He, theys. Rise up. Ooh. With like weird foot tingles. That happens sometimes. I just get my foot in like a weird spot and it like makes my foot all nervy. I don't know what's going on with that. Haven't done enough with my feet, I think, to really have that be justified. Never did ballet or anything. This conversation reminds me of talking with my boyfriend and being that emotional lifeline for each other. It's so weird to have differently toxic situations. Yeah, I mean, you know, and I don't think it's good long term to like have a relationship where you're each other's like only friend, only outlet for emotional connection. I think that can make it really hard to leave a relationship if it's not working anymore. But I think, you know, like a lot of people, like their main lifeline is going to be their romantic connections, and that's okay. Just like, you know, it's okay to also like have friends too. Oh, busboy is also gender neutral. Good to know. Or busser. Yes, busser. That was the word I was thinking of. My fiance, oh God. My fiance's mom thought that the T slur was not a derogatory way to refer to trans people until they explained it as a slur to her. She quickly stopped referring to trans people with a slur, but it's wild what some people believe. I am so glad that you were able to talk to them about that, because I can't even imagine like the inadvertent harm that would cause. Be like, what? I didn't know like that it was wrong to call him blah 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 blah. And it's like, Mom, you can't say that anymore. It's never been okay. And sometimes they just need to be told. Sometimes they just need to be told. Okay, I'm going to... Yeah, it's a different thing. Thanks for the recommendation of the magnesium with MSM. It helps my shoulders in non-play situations. Yes, magnesium is so good for you in so many scenarios. Obviously, if you think you have a deficiency, please go to your doctor and get blood tests done and all of that to make sure you're not under supplementing. But magnesium is really good for lots of things. I love it for muscle recovery. It is a 10 out of 10 recommendation. I love it. It's good stuff. Foot fetishes are so common. It's like not even doesn't even register on my radar anymore, honestly. As long as no one's trying to trick me into sending feet pics, I don't think too much about it. What are they gonna do when there's no more feet stuff in movies? What are they gonna do when Tarantino isn't making films anymore? When there's no more feet shots anymore. I just started reading that BDSM history book thanks to the interview you did a few years back. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm hoping that you're enjoying it. It still holds up. I don't think there's been too much new history since it got published. But yeah, they're also on Twitter. If you want to talk to Peter Tepper and you're like, hey, I have a question, they're pretty easy to reach if you ever want to chat. They have a question about something history related. Are there any fantasy books that use BDSM as a magic system? Where it's just how society functions, but magic? Wait, are there fantasy books that use BDSM as a magic system? You mean like somebody gets hit and it gives them magic powers? Or... like the only thing I could think of that's close to that is like Duke of Burgundy, because just like BDSM is just like part of the, oh yeah, you just walk down to the BDSM furniture store and then somebody makes you like a human toilet stool. That's just like normal. But I don't read enough like general genre fantasy books. I read like old shit. So if people are more up to date than I am about what's going on in the fantasy lit, you know, romance fantasy genres, perhaps, if there's ever been a BDSM as a magic system, I would love to know about it, because that, I don't even know how you would implement that, but I'm intrigued by the idea. Oh, well, I guess, yeah, is Kushiel's Dart, is that a magic system? Okay, so Kushiel's Dart, which is a fun book to read. I recommend it on audiobook because it's very, I would not reread it, like, cover to cover, physical book format, because like, each one of those books is like 800 pages, and it's like, all right, slow down, George R. R. Martin, what do you think you're doing? I found it to be very entertaining. Sorry, hiccups. I find it to be very entertaining to read, which I wonder is related to my foot thing. I don't know. Probably unrelated. Okay. Hopefully that cured me of the hiccups. I don't know. We'll see. But Kushiel's Dart is, how do I describe it? It's like a horny, very low fantasy, alternate history Europe where the gods are all real. All of them, they're all real. Except for there's some new ones in there too. And they also, for some reason, I don't know, maybe this was the case when the author was writing. She also seems to believe that, like, people in the Balkans don't have a religion. like, there's a bit in, like, the second book where they introduce, like, some Balkan characters, and they're like, she's like, oh yeah, and then they don't really have gods, they just have, like, evil house spirits that they have to appease, and it's like, wait, there were actually gods. Like, people in Albania, ancient Albanians did actually have a pantheon. Whatever. I thought that was funny. So she takes some liberties with it. But it's essentially about a person who is God-touched to be able to enjoy pain sexually in order to endure things for a good reason, which is essentially like Chester plays a like very specific role in like the history of like that part of the world, and being able to enjoy pain allows her to like fulfill this role essentially, and it's like very interesting. But it only really is like, it's literally that one character. Well, okay, there's also another person who's a scion of a different god who is really, really into giving pain. And yes, they have a very situationship type thing going on. And they probably should have been endgame if there was any justice in the universe. But instead we had to do a fucking heterosexual pairing at the end. But whatever. Don't always get what I want. But there is a little bit of that. But it's only like two characters. And it's not like... It's like, is it a magic system with only two people in the universe? Well, okay. Technically, there's like a third person, but he doesn't show up until like the very end, and it's not really the same thing. It's not that many people, okay? But it is interesting, and I guess that would be the closest. And it's a good series. Again, unless you're like a very voracious reader and you have a lot of time, I'd recommend having it on audiobook and not getting a physical copy. Because if you try to read all the books physically, it's like 2,000 pages. You're going to be, not even that, more than that, probably like 24,000 pages. It's a lot. It's too many. Too many pages, honestly. There's a story called Channeler's Source on AO3, and some associated works that have a Dom mage and a sub source, and they produce the energy for the Dom's magic through the Dom sub acts. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it's like having a familiar, but your submissive familiar? Okay. Or your like a warlock pact item. Yeah, okay. Kink-based fantasy ask, I'd recommend Sex Wizards. I haven't read the series yet, but I've heard great things about it. I believe you. I gotta read the synopsis, alright? What is the description for Sex Wizards? Oh my god, it's real! It's a real book. It's published by somebody... Where can I find a description of it? Oh, it's on Goodreads. It's on Goodreads. Book 1, 3,000 reviews, 4.32 stars. That's pretty good out of 5. Oh my god, that's way too long. Okay, I'll just read the little bit at the bottom here. Initiation is a full-length fantasy, the first in the epic Sex Wizards series, set in a sex-positive magical world. This novel has a kink-based magic system, which crosses a wide range of play with varying degrees of intensity. The Wizards of the Crux include pansexual, polyamorous, fantasy race, non-binary, gender non-conforming, intersex characters. Please see book preview for full content warning. Okay, so there you go. It is real, it is a thing, and people are loving it, apparently. They said, give me more, please. I don't remember Elfwood. I don't know what that is. Wielder/weapon and Soul Eater, but Dom sub? Yeah, maybe. I'm writing a new short story about roommates turned lovers, an autistic trans woman, and a schizoaffective cis woman, and all the fun things that come with that. That's something that could be very, very, very interesting. Definitely not something you see on the shelves every day. It's hard to find good kink books where the submissive is normal. I want a submissive who isn't girl bossing too hard but isn't an infant. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like either you girl boss too close to the sun, or you're like a literal baby who can't do anything, and it's like, oh, well, she has this long history of trauma, and she got abandoned by her birth family, and then she got in a car accident, and then she had to drop out of school because, like, her foster family assaulted her, and then her dog died, and then she got, and then a professor, came on to her in college, and she had to drop out, and then she did that, and then it's just, 50 bad things all happened in a row, and it's and now she wants to do BDSM, and it's okay, but what if she just, becomes a CPA? What if she just is a CPA? What if she works for the library system? What if she is a hospice nurse? We could have all different kinds of occupations here, but everyone has baggage. Everyone has things that have happened in life, but it doesn't have to be 80 things back to back. It could be 2 things, and that would be enough for some character motivation and some backstory without it being you need to understand this is the most miserable person who has ever lived. Maybe we don't actually need all submissives to be having lots of pain inside. What if it's just I'm an ex-ballerina and now I'm a researcher in a psychology lab, and also pain is fun sometimes. And it makes me happy when my boyfriend and I get to do painful things. What if we could just have that? What if that was the story? Maybe it wouldn't be as compelling, yeah. Looks like it's not streaming anywhere right now, but I think you can rent Lost Girl on Prime. Oh, is that kind of in that wheelhouse? Oh, and also she's only 18. Yeah, exactly. Every time she was 18 to 21, and her whole life has been abject misery from the absolute start. Yeah. And it's I think that there is a place, I'm not against emotional healing, overcoming trauma in books, because that's also part of the human experience. Again, most of us have at least 1 or 2, life-changingly bad things that have happened. Not all back to back to back, but the depressive episodes, we have a family member who dies, we end up having massive financial struggles, things happen that can impact our lives, and having a book that reliably and accurately demonstrates the actual healing process, I think could be really interesting. That's something that's continually made me mad when I've read YA books, especially, though it's what does YA even mean anymore? But I mean, in the year 2008, what counted as YA? I read this YA book, and I won't go into details about it because it is triggering, but it's a book, and there's a thing that happens that's very traumatic right at the beginning of the book that is described in way more detail than necessary. And you'd think this would be something that would fundamentally change the character, it would mean they'd have to go through therapy, they'd have to process it. Nope. They're totally fine. It never comes up again. They have no trauma, no flashbacks, no nothing. There's consequences physically from that event at the start of the book throughout the whole rest of the book, but the actual trauma from the experience, despite it being described as being a traumatic experience, never comes up again because that would be inconvenient. Yeah, trauma-informed that book was not. Trauma-informed it was not. Oh, we always have time to talk about monster kinks. Always have time for that. Well, maybe not always, but most of the time we do. We did talk about Danny DeVito playing Nosferatu, which I feel like that counts. What makes you think that monster effing is having a moment? I'm on a live stream. I can just say fucking. I'm not going to monetize this. I think that monster fucking is having a moment because Nosferatu, Frankenstein. There was another. What was the other? There was a thing that came out recently, also involved a monster that people were like very like, hear me out about, and I can't remember what it was. I don't remember. There was another thing. There was a third thing to complete the comedic triad. There was at least another one, okay, but. We are putting horniness on screen in horror movies with monsters. And it's gonna keep happening, okay? We gotta line up Labyrinth. We're gonna potentially have more horny Labyrinth. And I don't know how they're gonna make it better than the first one. Because, I mean, how do you top those pants? How do you top the hair? How do you top David fucking Bowie? How do you do? Who could be better in that role? Who could be hornier in that role? I don't know. Who could bring the chutzpah, the charisma? Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. But we're having, fairy kings. We're having elf kings. We're having vampires. There's a werewolf movie coming out that's supposedly going to be horny. The Wolfman, I think. Frankenstein. It's happening. Okay, Omegaverse still popping off. People still love it. They're still living it. They're still laughing it. It's happening. The original Frankenstein is so close to monster boyfriend territory, but no one dates him. I mean, I guess he could be aromantic. Do we think about that? Although I guess he does have a wife at some point later. Different iterations involve a wife. What about the creature from the Black Lagoon? I don't know anything about that. I don't know. Oh, Krampus? Yes, there's also Krampus, of course. Robert Pattinson in the role of a lifetime. Imagine going from Twilight to Labyrinth. Full circle moment, honestly. Actually, he did The Lighthouse, so he might actually have an in to be in the Labyrinth movie. Can he be both Batman? And also reprising David Bowie's role? Is that allowed? Can he do that? I don't know. Can he do that? Yes, at a time of real uncertainty, horror always gets a bump. It's easier to deal with film monsters than with the real ones. Yes, that is also kind of on a darker note, like where we are socio-culturally, maybe, let's say. We get to be in a time period where things suck, but also we get more monsters. And also, men are already kind of scary, so like maybe we get to sort of deal with the monster that's very visually obvious and not the like sneaky predator, you know what I mean? Mothman. That too. Morbin time. Morbius. No one was horny for Morbius. Maybe. I don't know. Oh no. Now I'm just thinking about like, is Mrs. Claus letting somebody else down her chimney? Oh God. It's stuck in my head forever now. From Twilight to Batman to Labyrinth. I mean, honestly, what a film lineup. What a film lineup. Robert Pattinson became a serious actor, so gradually didn't notice until the transition was complete. Exactly. Count Orlok Nosferatu might be one of my favorite depictions of vampires in film. He's the opposite of what you would expect a vampire to be in comparison to Dracula, because he's so grotesque. I mean, I respect that, though. I have said, and this is maybe why I'm like hyped for Nosferatu, I have gone on the record. I will go on the record again to 150 people watching, which, by the way, thanks for watching, guys. Give the stream a like. I have gone on the record saying, I want a vampire movie where instead of the vampires being like this elite aristocratic society where like they run this like parallel universe to us and they're all like rich and beautiful and like sparkly, whatever. I want vampires that are like monstrous little sewer rats, okay? I want vampires that are like hunched over little like craven creatures that like scurry around in the bushes, okay? Like I want something that's like, you know, more like Witcher, like one of those types of vampires. Not like the high vampires, like one of the other types of vampiric creature where it's more like a weird little fucked up bat thing. Like, that's what I want. I want weird fucked up little bat thing in the swamp, in the sewers, okay? And then, counterpoint, in addition, pretty please, writing Santa Claus about this next year, dear Santa, please for Christmas, make me this movie. I want like shapeshifter creatures to be the like elite members of the shadowy counter society that like secretly run the government. Like maybe not lizards, because we have to worry about that being like a weird, like, you know, the deep state, the anti-Semitic thing. But like, you know, tigers, bears, lions, wolves, you know, just not even just werewolves, were creatures in general. That's what I want. I just want a role reversal on the typical trope. All right. That's my OC. Don't steal it. It's my idea. I'm writing it. I'm making the screenplay. But also, if you make it in the next 2 years, you'll have it for free. Okay. You get it for free. That's the Nosferatu clan from Vampire the Masquerade. No, the difference is the Nosferatu clan from Vampire the Masquerade, they're still too humanoid. They're too intelligent. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe the TTRPG, maybe the rule book is different. But I need I need more bat-like. I don't think you understand. I need more bat-like. I need even more being in a sewer. No computers. No running the dark web. No vampire net. Just completely Luddite. Maybe like borderline not having enough intelligence to like operate a computer. That's what I need. Okay. Like actual like monsters. Not like, oh, they're kind of ugly, but also like they invented the internet. Like, yeah. Honestly, I don't know why people haven't done the Vampire the Masquerade video game take where there's all sorts of social classes. You know, maybe too complicated for a film, kind of doing a one-off, but they really should. They really should. Did you see the Nosferatu with Sounds YouTube vid? The one really makes Orlok extra scrungly. Yeah, speaking of scrungly, that's what I picture. I need scrungly vampires. I need scrungly vampires. Oh my goodness, yes. Then again, I think what they do in the Shadows TV show is going to be the best vampire take we will get. I love what they do in the Shadows. That is my jam. I need that forever. I would honestly, if they did like 6 seasons and a movie, a la Community, because it's 6 seasons in a movie, I think is the saying in that. But they did the movie technically already, so that crossed that one off the list. But I love that show. It's like probably my favorite, like currently airing thing on television. Not because it's complicated or because it's like a deep thinker. Okay, it's not The Sopranos. It's not Mad Men, whatever. It's not Breaking Bad, but it's good. It's funny consistently. The acting is great. The fucking ambiance is just like top tier. The costuming is top tier. They nailed the vibe perfectly. Perfectly. You were talking about like Man Bat from the Batman cartoon, kind of a bat creature. Wait, maybe that's where I got the idea from originally, because I do really like Batman. That was like my jam when I was a kid. Man Bat. Yes, that's what I need. I need Man Bat. Like in a TV. Yes, that is the appropriate amount of bat. Maybe too tall still? He could be shorter. I need to be to be able to play this character. So it has to be like 4'11" probably. Oh my god, there is a horrifying Man Bat figurine. That is terrifying. Yeah, he could be tinier. I need them to be like a small little like pack creature. I need them to be like 4 foot, and they need to like be in packs that like rove around in the sewers and like kidnap children. That's what I want. Like, because I don't want them to be the main character. They're like a side. They're like a side creature to like the werewolf movie. That's what I want. Vampire Academy had 3 different types of vampires: a royal type class, half vampire, half humans, and the last one is more, for lack of a better description, feral. Oh my god! Wait a minute. Wait, I think you might be onto something. Are you talking about the movie? The one from like 2014? I was thinking of Vampire Knight for a second. Like the manga, and that was like the second manga I ever read. And I feel like I never finished that, and maybe I should read it because I feel like it was interesting. I don't think I'd watch the anime, but I would reread the whole series in manga form. I want Man Bat with the size of a hobbit. Yes, that is what I want, okay? Don't judge me. I think it would be different. It would be interesting. Hear me out. This is my actual hear me out, but like asexual version. Like, I think this would be a cool character, like, to have in a franchise. Vampires as a side creature in a werewolf movie, like Reverse Twilight. Exactly, but no imprinting on babies. No weird love triangles. Yes. I think the feral ones are called Strigoi. Okay, that makes sense. They're the same thing. All right. Getting into some more questions. Exactly. I need more. I just like bats, honestly. I'm just trying to get more bats. I'm trying to get some bat representation in my films. Have you ever heard about Darkstalkers? My favorite vampire and cat girl, Morgan/Lilith. Oh, well, isn't that just a T for T trans woman couple? Wait, what? Morgan and Lilith. I think I know them. They're dating. Felicia is in this game. Oh yeah, that's the polycule. That's the T for T trans woman polycule I know. Morgan, Lilith, and Felicia. I'm laughing. But prove me wrong. I think it's true. And there's always one Lilith, which is like, hey, listen, I'm not gonna go for it. If I could choose a name, that would have been on the list for sure. Vampire, succubus, demon, the lines all kind of blur together. I like it when there's like general demonic entities, okay? Not just vampires. I need like primordial creatures of the dark depths of the night that are like manifestations of like the evil that exists in the universe, okay? It could be vampires, it could be demons that also like need to eat humans. Like there could be all different flavors in there. All right, see you later, fellas. I have a thing for green-haired man, the Joker, Beetlejuice, the Grinch. Has Aaron ever dyed his hair green? Should he get green tips as a special treat? For birthday, perhaps. It washes out. Just don't go to work, you know? Just do it on a long weekend. Wizard's first rulebook series has a lot of BDSM aspects. Wheel of Time too. Oh my god, I haven't read the Wheel of Time yet, but it is on my list because one of my partners really likes that series. To be honest, all the other books they have me read also have torture and BDSM elements in them, so I should have expected that. I'm on to their gig. I'm on to their game. They're like, ooh, read this series. It's so good. Also, it's got kind of BDSM stuff in it. I'm curious to know what the BDSM stuff in Wheel of Time is, like, in particular, but I just love that I know that it's there. I'm assuming Jim Carrey Grinch, but I guess it could also be the animated one. No judgment. No judgment. There just aren't enough kink movies, so I just stick with anime these days. That's fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I imagine they have I think vampires, their breath probably smells like oxidized blood. That's what I imagine. Or like kind of like a rotting corpse, maybe. Like it depends. Somewhere in that vicinity. Can you go over how to make it possible to receive a gifted membership again? I believe it's somewhere in the settings. I will try my best, but it depends on if you're on browser, what browser you're using, if you're on mobile, how to receive YouTube gifted memberships. All right. To accept a gifted YouTube membership, you can opt in to receive them from eligible channels. So, if you're in a live stream, you can go to the live stream, and if you're a viewer, if you go to the hamburger button, like the three little dots, there should be something that allows you to opt in to allow gifts. But then if you're not, go to a channel and then click on the join button and then click on more and then gift settings, and then you should be able to turn on from there allowing gifts is how that should work. So go to my page, click join, click more, then click on gift settings, and then toggle to allow gifts. Here, I even do it. I'll log on to my other account on my phone. I will go to my live stream right this very minute, and I will talk about it. How about that? All right. I have myself muted, so I'm not going to echo. All right, here we are. All right. I'm in my chat. I go to the little $. I go to memberships. And then, let me see here. And then I click on join. Oh, wait, no. I went to the wrong place. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me yet. Maybe I'm doing this wrong because it's on mobile, and that's like not what I should be doing. Okay. Never mind. Not doing it that way. All right. Join. Hamburger menu, learn more about, wait, no. That's not it. Okay, maybe that isn't, maybe Google lied to me because I can only see how to pay for it. Maybe I have to be a different, if I'm on mobile, maybe it's different. But there are steps to be able to do it on YouTube through Android, and I will just go ahead and link that in the chat if you want to read that. Find whatever combination of things works for you. And there you go. It's just missing? Oh. Weird. Well, I don't know because I can't see it either on my end. So maybe YouTube is just bad? On PC, what you said worked. Oh, okay. So maybe just mobile it is like different instructions. First time catching a stream, so happy. Glad you could make it. Thanks for being here. Ooh, good question from Jen. Any advice for a newbie who's realizing she's more kinky than her boyfriend? LOL. We are taking it slow and playing, but any advice is appreciated. Been together for 12 years. Monster kink for newbies? LOL. Great question, Jen. Hopefully you're still here, or you get to hear this later because I am answering your question if you're not, still here in the chat. But I think it's good that you're taking it slow, and I think there is benefit to the phrase and following it of going at the pace of the slowest person. And I imagine because you're asking for advice, maybe what's happening is like you want to do more, but your partner isn't ready yet. Or maybe your partner is feeling guilty for like not maybe being as kinky as you are. And that's a very common occurrence. Even with like vanilla sex, this happens a lot where people have a discrepancy in desire. One person likes one type of thing more than the other person, or they just like sex in general more. They have a higher sex drive. All that is like very, very normal. And so I think one is like, you can't coerce somebody into playing more. You can't like make someone be more kinky than they're really, willing to be or can be, because that's who they are. But I think it is about like maybe finding some areas where you can compromise and giving them maybe the encouragement they need to feel confident in doing those new things that maybe feel a bit scarier for them to do, or maybe they're not really sure how it's going to go. And I think, reverse praise kink via like really encouraging your like top partner is a very powerful tool of like, yes, you're doing so amazing. I love it. This is fantastic. Oh my gosh, I love getting to explore with you. This is so amazing. Like, people underestimate the power of praise. They underestimate how, especially if you're like a femme person and you're playing with like a mask person and they are just not used to being recognized verbally in like a very concrete way, it can make a really big difference to be like, hey, I see you, I appreciate you, I see what you're doing for me, you're amazing, you're great, you're wonderful, I just want to pinch your little cheeks and kiss you on the forehead and tell you thank you 8,000 times. Like, that actually really does a lot for people. Maybe not that exact thing. Moderate it based on what works for your relationship. But I do generally think like lots of encouragement is a good thing to do. And then like kind of plotting out like what each of your goals ultimately are. Like maybe what your favorite fantasy is. That's always a good place to start talking about like, okay, what like fantasies do we have? Is there any overlap that we can build on? And or like what would your like dream scene be? Like maybe their dream scene is like being on vacation in like a fancy Airbnb, and they want to like, tie you up and then, do the redacted things to your body. And maybe for you, your ultimate, kink dream is renting out a prison, like an empty prison, and getting hosed down with the hose, and then having your head shaved, and then getting a thorough cavity inspection, and then you're getting like locked up in a cell for like 48 hours while eating gruel off of a plastic container on the floor, and like that would be bliss for you. Okay, there is like a little bit of overlap. Like, okay, there's some bondage elements. There's also an element of like being outside the home and like in a new environment. Like, we can kind of find a way to mix these two together maybe a little bit. But finding maybe elements in your favorite things that you want to do that your partner feels comfortable doing, like, maybe you really want to try like head shaving, but your partner's like, I'm not going to cut off your hair. Like, no, it's not going to, no, too much responsibility. What if you hate it? What if you blame me? Well, maybe you can do like dirty talk, right? Like dirty talk, great tool for doing kinks that you don't really want to do like for realsies, either because of your partner's comfort level, or maybe it's some extreme kink that you can really only ever do one time. Practicing dirty talk and like sharing fantasies and stories around things. And if you like humiliation play, and I speak from experience on this one, okay, believe me, trust me, this is very intense. Maybe your partner orders you to write out like your favorite fantasy in like great detail, and then they make you read it to them. Maybe you're like in bondage, you're kneeling for them, whatever speaks to you. I don't know what your kinks are. Doing that, and then you have to make eye contact with them while reading, paragraphs of like, I want you to do this like exact thing to me, and this is why, and this is how I'm gonna feel. And then like that by itself is like basically a scene. So you don't necessarily have to do anything too intense, but you can, still get to kind of sort of experience those fantasies without really having to be like ready to do them. Yeah. All right. See you, Lexi. Talk to you later. Yes, and you have been together for 12 years. That is a long time. Also, the Monster Kink for Newbies part. The Monster Kink for Newbies. What do I want to say about that? Again, I do think roleplay is a really good way to like engage in that as like a beginner thing. I think anything that's kind of more animalistic that you can kind of incorporate into the scenes or activities you normally already do. So growling, scratching, biting, maybe if they normally shave, maybe they let their kind of beard grow out for a day or two, get kind of stubbly so you can feel that kind of, scratchy sensation on your skin. Maybe that's just my preference. I don't know. I think other people might like that too. It's sort of, ooh, it's like rough and it's like just another kind of sensory tool you can play with. But, anything like that I think can be a good way of kind of incorporating at least a little hint of that, ooh, that like, not danger, because it's not really dangerous, but it gives you that feeling of like, ooh, my partner is different. They're behaving differently. And what's that about? Yes, heavy eye contact. Underutilized tool, I think, because it makes so many people uncomfortable. I think, and I'm not saying that like everyone has to do it because the eye contact is hard for some people, but if you can do that on any level, it's a very powerful tool. He's trying with me, but definitely not as comfortable. I'm finding him into a bit of impact play, and he was not too rough, and I had to just tell him to trust me to tell you if it's too much for me. A classic scenario. So with that, again, I think how I would probably set this up is like, okay, you've been together for 12 years. You have plenty of time to figure this out and like help your partner get to a better confidence level. And it's like, the first couple times you play a new sport or you go to the gym or you try a new activity, like you're not going to be really confident with it yet, even if maybe you do have a natural talent for it or you like that activity. So building confidence, doing maybe smaller and possibly less satisfying scenes in service of getting to a point where there is more confidence. Because what you don't want to do, and I'm sure you know this and you're already doing it, don't do really big scenes and then not be able to pay them off, because that is like the worst thing that you can do. If you want to build a sustainable DS relationship, a kinky relationship, not being able to be consistent with your partners and then having like early on like catastrophic failures because you can't actually do what you say you're going to do, that is like very trust damaging, even in a longer term relationship. It's harder when you're new, both to kink and to each other in general, but also with like any relationship, like trust damage is trust damage. So start really small and then just like give extremely clear feedback. Like just tell them, like, lay it on thick, all right, girl? Just like lay it on thick. Tell them how much you like it, like the oohs, the ahs, the yes, more please, I love this. Like, if you're a crier or you squeal and, like, you act uncomfortable, that's your natural, like, pain processing. Like, I'm not telling you not to do that, but, like, if you're being ambiguous, that can be harder to interpret for a new person. So if you have the ability to be like, yes, please, more, and, like, essentially act the same way as you would if you were like receiving just like straight up sexual pleasure. Also, and this might not be your kink, but like it might also be easier for your partner to like process it as being a physically pleasurable thing for you if you're doing something sexual, like using a vibrator, using some kind of insertable toy at the same time. So that way they know, oh, this is actually like causing them pleasure, right? So that's something to factor in there too if you like incorporating kink and sexuality together, which not everyone does, and that's certainly not my thing, but like, a lot of people do. That can be a tool that you can use for that, and just like really tell them before the scene, during the scene, after the scene, yes, I love it, I want it, it feels good, and then just be really encouraging that you like it, and to like lean into that history of having your relationship, that like, hey, we've been together for like over a decade, you can trust me, I will tell you if I don't like something, and I really want this, and this makes me really happy that we can do this, and I hope that you can, keep exploring this with me as long as you feel comfortable. And then just like not going too far, maybe aiming, maybe doing kind of a, like, we're grading, maybe even if you haven't done this yet, do this too, of like, when he hits you, do a like scale of 1 to 10 on like how intense that is. Don't do a bratty thing of like, that was a 1. Like, actually tell them that was a 4, that was a 6. And encourage them, can you go up a little bit higher? Can you do it a little bit stronger? And maybe it also is helpful for them to know they might be afraid of like physically hurting you, and that's what's causing them to hold back. But if you're doing over the knee spanking, or you're using a like light paddle on the thighs or something like that, like it is, I'm not going to say impossible, but virtually impossible for them to really cause lasting damage. You have to be going really hard, really fast, with a heavy object, with shit aim, not paying attention to like cause someone an injury, doing a garden variety impact play scene with like typical equipment. Now, if you're doing impact play with a brick or like a metal rod, like, okay, that's outside of typical parameters here. But if you're doing a like, kind of beginner friendly, very basic, hand to hand or hand to skin type impact play, it's very difficult to cause any lasting damage. So just reassuring your partner, scaling to them, hey, you know how intense this is for me. You might think it's a 10, but for me, it's a 6. So you can go harder if you want to. And they might feel more comfortable staying in the like 4 to 6 range. That's okay. Maybe have an aim of like, okay, each time we play, maybe we're going to try to go up in intensity by like 1 number by the end. Like we maybe start at a 5, and then next time we play for like a minute longer, and then we go to a 6, and then we play for like 5 more minutes, and then we go to a 7, and then we just kind of keep going and going and going until you're doing like an hour-long scene, and you're getting up to the 8s and 9s for at least a little bit of it, and then going back down. And before you know it, they're going to know what they're doing, and they're going to be confident, and they're going to know that you really like it because you've told them 80 million times. And on the 7 and 101st time or whatever, that's when they finally realize, oh, you like this. Like, it can really take a long time for it to sink in. It can really take a long time, but it can be worth it. If you just keep jamming it in there, positive thoughts, you can jam in toxicity. You can also jam in positive thinking, too. My partner and I almost always do follow-ups after every encounter. It's relationship changing in the best way possible. Yes. I am a firm believer for vanilla interactions, kink interactions. Debriefing is really good. And like, I have done it to where it's like very thorough, and it's like, we did this, this, and this, and I like this, and I didn't like this, and I want more of this, and it's very, very clear, and it's very obvious. And I've also had situations where it's like, hey, I liked it last time, we did this thing, and they're like, cool. And then that's it. That's all it is. Like, when you get more comfort, then you get to build on that, and you get to just kind of be like, hey, that thing you did with your tongue last time, that was weird, do it again. And then that's it. I've had to have long safety conversations because sometimes I have verbal shutdowns when overwhelmed, especially emotionally. I literally wear a bell on my wrist to signal, hey, smart, go for it. That's a great workaround. So I have a question here from Wolfless. Thank you so much for the $20. I really appreciate it. And they say, what is a fetish or kink that isn't necessarily one of yours, but is something you've enjoyed once you've experienced it with a partner who is into it? Oh, something that was like a partner of mine was into that wasn't my thing necessarily beforehand. I've like done so many things, and I'm like, I like a lot of stuff, at least a little bit. You haven't stumped me. I'm just like going back through the memory logs of the things. I'm like, what would I say is a thing that I like? Thing that I like originally wasn't into, but then like liked it after I experienced it. Probably fire play, actually. Like, I remember trying fire play, and I had no idea like what it was going to be like, but it wasn't really a kink that I would have like picked to do myself. Like, it wasn't a thing I was drawn to psychologically or emotionally, but I had a partner that had like a whole kit for it, and they did it like outdoors, and they're like, oh, it's really fun. I think they'd done it like a different partner, before me. And when we experimented with that, that was really enjoyable to do. And it was like a really nice, very intense massage, like doing like glass cupping with fire play. That was really fun. Yeah. And it wasn't a kink that I really had. And even now, I wouldn't say it's like a kink. It's like a fun experience to have, but it's almost kind of like getting a massage. Like, it can be, especially when you're getting into like blood cupping, that is like kinky, but just like regular like fire cupping is the fire part. I like actually fire drumming probably more than fire cupping, but that's a hard ask. Yes, even when a vanilla situation, like you said, hey, I liked XYZ, nailed it. Just like talk about your encounters. Exactly. Like, when you are doing activities with people, like, because you know this, you've been in this scenario probably if you've had experiences sexually with people where you're with them and you're doing stuff and you're like, do they like this? Should I do more of it? Should I do less? I think they're enjoying it, but I don't really know. Is it okay that I'm doing this thing with my body? Are they into that, or are they just kind of ignoring it? I don't know. They're not saying anything. And then you're like second guessing yourself, because then you're like, was my technique okay? Did I do the things the way that they like? They didn't say anything. And then that's like, if you, especially when you're new to sex, or like, you're like, was that, what? Like, was that how that's supposed to go? What's going on there? And so when you just have those moments for feedback, that can be so important, because like, you don't want to be guessing in the dark. You don't want your partner to be guessing in the dark. Like, if you don't like that thing, if you're like, actually, when you like hump my shin bone, that's actually not very sexy for me. It actually like irritates me a little bit. Like, maybe don't say it like that, but like that sentiment of like, hey, that's not really my thing. You like it, but just so you know, it's not really my thing. That's totally acceptable. Or if you really like something, like maybe in the moment you thought it was obvious that you were enjoying it, but sometimes it's not. If you're not really a talker during sex, if you just kind of like make noise the whole time and your partner's like performing an act upon you, like, it's like, well, I think they're liking this, but then they move me to do this thing instead. They really like it. And it's like, no, I like that. You did it fine. It's just that I prefer this thing instead. Or, I liked it, but it got to be too much. So, like, I don't want to do it for as long. Like, there's so many variations on, like, why people are doing what they're doing during sex, and also how they're feeling about what you're doing to them. If you are not having those conversations, you are missing out on so much information. So much information. Ooh, good question. I'm going to skip ahead because I want to make sure I get to this one. But Dentro asks, does subspace feel recognizably similar from time to time, or are there like different sub-rooms? So there are sort of like tiers that people will talk about with subspace. I would say there are different like versions of it, but there's elements of it that feel familiar. Like, what do I compare this to? The only thing I can really compare it to is edibles, I guess. That's legal where I live. I can talk about that. Have you ever had edibles before? Even if you have like different edibles and they're like different strains or whatever, like different amounts kind of, like you kind of reliably know like the ballpark of sensation you're going to be experiencing under the influence of having an edible. Like, it's like that, where it's a little different times. Like, maybe it's not as strong, maybe you feel more of the like body side versus the mental side, but it's all kind of like, oh, that's the feeling of this category of thing. But in some books about BDSM, though not all of them, they do make some delineations between different levels of subspace. And there's like a really old, I think it's on Subguide. I don't remember who it's by. There's an old article on the Submissive Guide that I think talks about this, and this stuck in my brain because I remember somebody told me about this like a party or something, and I googled it later, and there's sort of like being in like headspace, which is you're like consciously playing the role kind of like an actor. Like, you're like, I'm being a puppy, I'm being a Victorian housemaid, I'm being a pool boy, I'm being whatever. And you're just going about the motions of doing it while still kind of like in your everyday brain. Then there's like kind of tier 1 of subspace. And then like as you get deeper, there's like this base layer that's called like, I think, roaring the void or something. And that I've been in that state once. And it was like during a caning scene. And like for me, it sort of feels like nothing can ever be painful. Like, you just want more and more and more of everything. Everything's really giggly. Like, everything just feels amazing. And like, you're not even, I think I had my eyes closed basically the whole time. I didn't remember like really seeing anything, but I was just like rolling around, laughing, carrying on. And to this day, that's probably one of the most intense versions of subspace I've ever been in. We're just like, even if my partner was going like 10 out of 10, as hard as they could go with like the nastiest cane they had, I was like, More, please. Give more. More, yes, do that, more. And that's not a typical experience for me with masochism. My more typical experience in masochism is like, it's kind of a struggle, I'm crying, I can get into a rhythm of like processing the pain and enjoying it, but it does not typically go that deep of like, you could go however hard you want and I would still enjoy it. I have that, like, there's also sort of this like, I don't know what I would call this, because there's like subspace that to me is typically very like adrenaline / pain. Well, okay, I was addendum to the subspace conversation. There's sort of like depths of subspace in terms of like the more traditional like sadomasochistic levels of subspace that are coming typically out of like a very intense like adrenaline experience of like physical pain being processed. And then there's other forms of subspace that are more headspace derived, that are more like dopamine, serotonin based and not adrenaline based, where instead what's happening is you're getting like really like kind of like lost in the role that you're playing, and you're getting really, really deep into the role, or you're getting into this kind of like blissed out flow state where you're just like perfectly floating along and like performing these actions and feeling like perfectly content and like very happy with what you're doing. I'm not sure if we have a word for that, but there's another like category I would add on to that, and I want to make sure, I'm going to Google it because I'm pretty sure I remember the name correctly, but Roaring the Void is, I'm pretty sure, what I heard it called, or flying. Flying sometimes called deep space. Here, I'll just read it for you. This is on the BDSM wiki. I don't know if it links to where this originated from. Let me just read this. Flying, sometimes called deep space or the roaring void. So I kind of combined two of them there. I guess that wasn't what I didn't mean to do that. Or the roaring void. This experience takes one far past a typical trance and is often deemed incomprehensible by those who experience it. Medically, the condition is also sometimes referred to as endorphin shock. Flying is the end result of a series of chemical and emotional loads released into the body during play over an extended period of time. The results are similar to descriptions of an out-of-body experience and are often interpreted as spiritual. Some have described it as being hallucinogenic, hypnotic, and floating outside themselves. I would say for me, it felt very like hallucinogenic and like floaty. Like it didn't feel out of my body, a little bit, I guess. Like I felt like I was very present in my body, but also sort of beyond it in the way that like nothing could like make me feel bad. Like nothing could hurt me. Everything was good. I did get really shaky and like hungry afterwards, but I was actually really laughy. I was like, which is typical for me. If I'm having like a positive, non-cathartic pain experience, like I'm probably laughing about it. Thank goodness I didn't have to drive after that. Yeah, and there's also sort of the levels of headspace thing I was talking about is like you get really into the role, and what I was talking about with like being in this state where you're just kind of like flowing along and being blissful in the role, like that gets called like being in like a trance state, and that can also affect you verbally and things, but it's not like, again, hopefully that makes sense. But the thing I was going to talk about is I don't know if there's like a term for this, or if this is just like a variant on more of the like roleplay headspace derived version of subspace, but there's like this, like it's not adrenaline based, but it's like this CNC thing that happens where like you're doing CNC and like with a partner that you like really trust, you know them really well, and like you're just like in that moment and you're like, they could do literally anything to my body. They could smash me in the head with a brick. They could like cut my arms with broken glass. They could like step on my like femur bones with their full body weight. They could do whatever they want to me, and like I'd probably be cool with that, and that would be fine. I don't know what to call that space. I don't know if there's a word for that. The part where you become psychotically delusional about your like desire to let this person do whatever to you, which is that even. This is what I struggle with CNC, and the way that I relate to it is like when I do like CNC stuff, which is really like I have CNC relationships with people. I don't really do like one-off like CNC scenes. That's not really my energy because I'm a relationships gal. I like romance, I like relationships. That's sort of what I base most of my BDSM on. You get into this space where it's like CNC is not really like, is it CNC? if you just consent to anything they want to do to you, like CNC versus free use. Like, it's like, I wouldn't necessarily want it to happen, but because it's them doing it to me, it's fine because it's them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is that? What are we calling that? I don't know if there's a word for that. No flapping, just flying. Mm-hmm. Yes, hydration, very critical. Yes, hydration and snacks. Water, very important. Any level of any scene, water is good because even if it's not because of the scene, you're probably dehydrated anyways, let's be honest. Sounds like total boundary dissolution. I don't know, is that a phrase that people use? Maybe I should make one. I'm a YouTuber, I can make shit up. I can just be like, this is a word, this is a phrase we're using now. Check Beyond Consent by, I don't even know how to begin with that. Avji, Saketopolo. It is more psychoanalysis, but this. Interesting. Okay. I'm not gonna check it out right now, but I am gonna like put it in my search bar. Oh, that is an actual book. Yeah, Sexuality Beyond Consent. Radical Alternatives to Consent and Trauma. This is like a recent publication. Came out in February last year. Arguing that we have become culturally obsessed with healing trauma, Sexuality Beyond Consent calls attention to what traumatized subjects do with their pain. The Erotics of Racism offer a paradigmatic example of how what is proximal to violation may become an unexpected site of flourishing. Central to the transformational possibilities of trauma is a queer form of consent, limit consent, that is not about guarding the self, but about risking experience. Saketopolo therefore shows why sexualities beyond consent may be worth risking and how risk might solicit the future. I feel like I read that, and I also don't like fully understand what this book is about. I struggle with things that are like very Freudian. The idea of traumatophilia, distinguishing between overwhelm and malignant dysfunction, are pretty great ways to conceptualize the interaction with traumatic material. Interesting. Okay, so that could be interesting to read. I am skeptical of anything involving Freud. I guess the risk erasing traumatophilia. I'm a little worried that it kind of sounds like sort of what right-wing people say about, like, they were talking about like trauma. They were saying like, trauma is trauma that. And it's like, sometimes things are actually bad though. BDSM Wiki is actually pretty good. I'm not going to say everything on there is totally accurate, but it's actually, like, if it's in the constellation of things that you are talking about with someone for beginner resources, the BDSM Wiki is not a bad one. It was a lot of academic words. It might be worth listening to a lecture from her on YouTube first. Oh, does she have a YouTube channel? Okay. I'll probably check that out first, yeah. All right, 15-minute warning. You have now been warned. 15 minutes remain in the stream. Got the shot clock. We are now going to answer some more questions. I think it might be because of the name. I think people misgender my dog because of the fact that her name is Bandita. Though I did not get to name her that. That is just what she is. Which is crazy, because she's also a Pomeranian, and, like, I don't think I've ever would have thought that somebody would have assumed a Pomeranian was a boy. Like, they're very girly dogs. Especially with her purple... She went into the vet with a purple tail and a purple collar. Like, how, like, that's... Oh, boy colors, obviously. There's also Cleopatra 2525, which is the penultimate sci-fi hot lady show. The main character is literally a stripper that woke up in a post-apocalyptic future. That's crazy. That's wild. We really were making any damn show if it involved space back then, huh? We were just like, yep, ship it. It's good. That'll make us, we'll get a return on our investment with that. Isn't he a criminal? Hasn't he sexually assaulted people? Backing that kind of person is telling IMO. Well, yes, I think that. But also a lot of people who are Trump voters think that, like, those are all lies from the deep state to put him down because the deep state doesn't want him to make America great. Like, there are people who think, there are Trump supporters who are like, yeah, he is those things, but it's fine and good, actually. But a lot of them are like, no, those are all just lies. That's mainstream fake media, blah, blah, blah. Coming up with the term fake news really was a gift for them, wasn't it? My wife is forbidden from touching grass. Oh, no. Hopefully because of grass allergy. It can't even affect your physical body. That's so true. Traumatic experience and toxicity will literally make you unwell because when you are around things that suppress your immune system because you're stressed all the goddamn time, it will make you sick. You will get run down. You will get injured more often because you're being stewed in poison constantly. That is a natural consequence of that. Why do vanilla people find the BDSM world so shocking? Stay out of others' bedroom lives. Because, I mean, my non-charitable knee-jerk reaction to that is like, they find it shocking because they have never looked up anything interesting in their lives, and they're very sheltered, and they're, like, scared of diverse new experiences. But I think, you know, the less judgmental version of that is, like, they just haven't had the opportunity to accept themselves and others enough. And they are scared of things that are different because we are, as human beings, generally scared of things that are different. And they just haven't had the opportunity to overcome that. And so they're judgmental because they've heard it is bad and dysfunctional, so therefore it must be, and that's just what they roll with, and they never really take the time to inspect that. So I think that's kind of the outside of, like, you know, religious dogma or, you know, sort of philosophical, political concerns over whether or not it's, you know, advantageous to the women's rights movement for women to be submissive in the bedroom to men or not, or to anyone ever. And this, I don't know how effective those conversations are. I don't know if people it's hard to tell from the internet, like, how many people really think that way versus it just being sort of a blip that gets blown up because it's the internet. But it seems like more people are believing that, which is disappointing, but it is a minority for sure. Great eyebrow hairs. I don't have any of those. I don't think so. The supporters are definitely in a cult. I think, unfortunately true. I just went to my first couple munches recently, but I'm nervous to go to a play party by myself. Do you have any tips to make sure it all goes well / be less anxious? So, Arctic, I have a video coming out very, very soon about this very thing. Like, next week, there will be a video. Oh my God, my dog. Where I talk about this thing. And basically my advice for that is pick your event very carefully, go early, go to a newbie focused event, and have a plan for afterwards if things don't go well. And don't plan on playing, just go to meet people, which is why going early is best. About hydration, the Dom I seen with will pause several times to make sure I drink water. Aw, that's so sweet. Yeah. Yeah, I have a partner that does that too, where they're like, all right, we're just doing a bunch of stuff. And then out of nowhere, they'll be like, do you need some water? I'll be like, yep. And then we'll go back into it. And it's great. People think, oh no, I can't interrupt the scene. I can't interrupt the scene. I have to be doing something at all times. And heaven forbid that, any of the action ever stop to like have a little check-in moment. Cause we can't, this is kayfabe or whatever. What is that? The wrestling thing? I don't know anything about wrestling. I shouldn't be, yeah, you can't break kayfabe with the BDSM scenes. So you end up just like not ever taking care of your physical needs during a scene, and that's how you end up being an aftercare, like hopping back and forth and being like, actually, I really need to go to the bathroom, and then that's a mood killer. Where you can just like take a moment, check in, be like, need water? Need a little bite of granola bar? Bathroom break? Just give people the opportunity to tell you what their needs are. And then get back into it. And it's fine. It's normal. It's cool. And it's caretaking and it's cute and it's sweet. How do you get anything done with Bandita being so cute? It's really hard. I have to ignore her. I don't even know what she's doing. I don't even know what she's doing. Look at this. She's doing something with her bed. I don't know. Maybe she found a crumb? I don't know. She's like laying outside of her bed and then like licking the toy that she has in there. I don't even know how to explain that. I don't think science can explain that. She flooped. She flooped. My goodness. Life will never be the same. All right. Speaking of flooping and flopping, let's get back to some more questions. Do you think the majority of people have kinks of some kind, even if they don't know it or haven't tried it? I guess it depends on how you define what a kink is. Like, what counts as having a kink? Because if you just go by, have you ever had a fantasy about a kinky thing at some point in your life? Have you ever even dabbled in the thought of bondage or power exchange or, a forced sex scenario or something? The numbers are like astronomically high. Like 80 to 90+% of people have had, like, I think it's 90% of people have fantasized about it like at least once at some point. And actually, wait, I probably have that chart handy. Wait, I got it saved on my computer. I can just look this up. I can just look at the thing. Which folder do I have it in? I got it. Okay, I got it. I'm quoting from the numbers here. So, it was even higher than I thought it was. The 7 most common fantasies and how many people have ever had them. 93% of men have had a fantasy about BDSM at some point, and 96% of women have fantasized about BDSM. So on average, about 95%, give or take, of people, like 94.5% of people, have had a BDSM fantasy at some point. People who regularly fantasize about it is, I think, like half to like 2/3. Like, it's an insane amount of people. And they discover this not by asking people on a survey, like, do you fantasize about like this, or this? They also analyze not just that, but also like people's favorite fantasies, and like a quarter of people have some kind of BDSM element as their favorite fantasy. So I would probably say, like, not ever just fantasizing about it at all, but like regularly engaging in a fantasy about it and enjoying it, or even pursuing it in the bedroom physically. Because I think it's also possible that maybe you don't like have a fantasy life that revolves around BDSM, but you like doing it in a relationship as like a physical experience. Because like, fantasy versus reality is kind of a complicated thing, and sometimes our fantasies and our BDSM activities match very closely, and sometimes they don't, and that's just like how it goes sometimes. I would say comfortably, probably like a quarter of people would count as kinky, but as far as like participants in the BDSM community is probably more like 2 or 3%. As someone with POTS, oh yeah. My partner is constantly doing checks for water as well as random symptom checks because I tend to have unscheduled floor meetings. That is a great way to describe what I assume is fainting. But yeah, you never want to have an unscheduled meeting with the floor. And, I want to be prepared for that happening. Keep the soft things around on the floor. You can if you're very sharp-eyed, you can see Bandito right there. Snorfing around for something. She's on a scouting mission because she's hungry, because she's on a limited diet and it makes her scrungly. It makes the poor girl scrungly. What can I say? I feel like I'm committing a dog crime every single time I don't let her eat what she wants. But it's like, no, I think you're allergic to chicken. You can't eat that. Tickle fetish / kink. Thoughts on it? Are you ticklish? Difference between kink and fetish. Listen, if you're a tickle fetishist and you're trying to get me to divulge some kind of fetishistic information for your own pleasure, you're barking up the wrong tree because I have too much experience with fetishists to fall for this. So I'll ruin it for you right now. I'm not ticklish. I don't have a tickle fetish. I'm being serious on both fronts. I'm actually not ticklish. I made one video once about tickle torture, and then ever since then, every once in a while, a tickle fetishist will come out and be like, do you have a tickle fetish? And it's like, I said in the video multiple times, I don't actually. I think it's totally fine. It's just not my thing. I also have unscheduled floor meetings. Also POTS. I wonder how many people in the community have POTS. It's a non-zero amount. I don't know if it's like common though. Yeah, does that what I meant? Yeah, it's just popping in. There's some paradoxes in BDSM that don't make much sense from a distance. Why whacking somebody with a paddle isn't anything but hurting somebody and so on. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's like, why threatening to cut off the head of a stuffy is too far, but like beating them within an inch of their life is like totally cool. I don't know how many people don't know they have a kink versus haven't tried it. I think the vast majority of people don't try their kinks. I would say at least half of the people who have kinks don't talk about them or share them. It's just a fantasy-only experience. At least half, if not more. I'm the less kinky person in my partnership, and we want to get involved in our local kink community. Got any advice I can use when I get nervous or shy when we start attending? Oh my gosh. Y'all, this is why I am making a video. This is why I made the video. It's coming out next week, where I talk about getting involved in your local kink community. I think it's good to know that you're probably going to get nervous and shy. And I keep in mind that depending on where you live, most BDSM people are also weird, introverted nerd people who probably got bullied at some point and are like totally cool being around other shy, weird, nerdy people. So that's totally okay. Go early, go to smaller events, show up when it's like a handful of people and not like several dozen. Go when it's quieter, go when it's a little bit lower key. You're probably going to have a better experience. Also, wear stuff that tells the other people about who you are and your interests outside of kink, right? It could be a t-shirt, could be band gear, could be stickers on a water bottle, pins, patches, any old damn thing. But give people around you something to connect to and talk about, okay? I literally have like made friends because one time I overheard a conversation of somebody talking about a video game that I knew, and then I went, oh, I'm playing that too. And then away we went, and now we're friends. Like, that's all it took. And it's so, like, it's easy to get overwhelmed thinking about, if people are going to like me, am I going to fit in, and it's like, this is not like the beautiful hot person club for perfect hot people. Like, are there attractive people in the community? Yes. Are there younger people? Yes. But for the most part, we're all just kind of like weird nerds. And like, if that's you, you're probably going to fit in. And it's always good to go with a partner. Yeah, but I'll have more information about that in a video coming up really soon. Okay, I'm going to try to get to one more question if I can here. Oh, what are your thoughts on, I don't even know what this is, Ruben Sim? I heard he's been documenting and exposing the Roblox ERP community. That's way too zoomer for me. I don't know what the fuck that just was. Where have I heard ERP before? That's a role play. Is that like what Dream did, but with Minecraft, not with Roblox? Is it that? Is that okay? So it's like a role play thing. I guess my gut reaction to that is it's not shocking to me in the least whatsoever that a video game for children would be full of people misusing it for weird roleplay purposes. Like, shocker, people are terrible, more at 11. I'm not going to count that one as the last one. That's kind of a downer. What's a more positive question to end it on? When I went to a munch, I bonded with a bunch of people because we all had some medical issues. Definitely a bunch of disabled kinksters out there. Oh yeah, also that too. Lots of people with all different things going on. Visible, invisible, you know, the wheelchair users, people who are blind, people with different mobility aids, seeing eye dogs, different service animals, across the board. Never thought I'd hear you talk about Ruben Sim and the fuck state of Roblox. Apparently big Roblox drama is happening, and I don't know about it. And without knowing anything further, exotic roleplay, erotic roleplay on Roblox. That seems like a really bad idea. Probably don't do erotic roleplay. There's so many websites. We have Twitter, we have email, we have Telegram. Why do you need to do it in the children's game? Second Life, I'm pretty sure, is still out there. FetLife exists. I just don't. Wow. Apparently things are happening. Well, if things are happening, expose it. You have my permission. Go for it. And I'm sorry that is perennially an issue. She's not a rescue in the sense that I got her from like a state, you know, animal rescue or something. But I got her, so she was a breeding dog, and then something happened with her owner, and then she was getting rid of all of her dogs, and Bandit had just had her last litter, and then she was getting rid of Bandit for like a couple $100. It was just basically like, I gotta get rid of these dogs as soon as possible, like, come pick them up like tomorrow. Like, it was a real dramatic situation. So I took her from that scenario, and I consider her to be a rescue because if I didn't get her, the person who was selling her was like being so unscrupulous about it that somebody very much could have like taken her and put her back in a puppy mill. And I'm also pretty sure she was not treated well. Like, she had a broken leg that I didn't know about. She had like no dental care. Like, she did not live as a pet. It was real bad. So I consider her to be a rescue, but not in the like traditional sense. She's good, I promise. This is a smaller part. You can skim through the 2 academic parts. I mean, I gotta be honest, if it's psychology, it's probably not too academic for me. It's just the Freudian stuff annoys me. I can read psychology papers. I can read philosophy. Maybe not something I do every day. You know, we're not talking about trying to, you know, read I don't know, Baudrillard or someone, right? I don't know. This is one of the impenetrable philosophers of our time. I'm not reading a Das Kapital, right? Like, you know, I'll figure it out. I thought Roblox was for children. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Roblox is fucked. They should shut down at this point. Somebody's gonna need to crack down, right? There's always been sexual stuff on Roblox, just it's more known now, like, bro of all places, why Roblox? Oh, why indeed? Any website is at risk of being colonized by people that don't know how to use it correctly, to be honest with you. How do I overcome internalized homophobia when it creeps into my life? I was raised Baptist, so sometimes I briefly feel societal pressure to date women, even though I like both. That is a whole subject for a book, probably. But I will briefly give you my dealing with unjustified guilt and shame tools. Are you ready? This is it. We pull out the cards, the magical, the deck of cards. I'm being facetious, but it's because I'm tired and I'm cramping. Because my body hates me, and I get to have periods every 10 business days, 10 calendar days, actually. So don't mind me. I'm just psychotic because I have no iron left in my whole body. Here we go. We go to a little nifty little tool that we have. I found shame. Where's the guilt? There's one for procrastination, which is like not in the book, which I find to be funny. They're like, listen. All right. No, not justified guilt. I need unjustified guilt. There we go. Unjustified guilt. This is opposite to emotion for shame and guilt. So what do guilt and shame want us to do? They want us to hide. They want us to not have us be who we are. But sometimes, like in your case, it's not justified. It's dumb. So what do? We find people who will accept us. We participate in community spaces where we will be accepted, like this community, like Discord chats, like organizing in real life. We keep being ourselves. We don't listen to the part of us that says we should not be pursuing the people that we're attracted to because that's bad or gross. We go on the dating apps. We match with people. We talk with people. We go on the dates. We say, fuck it. I'm going to date who I want because I'm worth it. And then this one actually says, I'll just quote from this one. When you feel guilt for an unjustified reason, coach yourself out of it with your self-talk statements and continue to do the guilty behavior until it no longer causes the emotional reaction. The thing is, this is what's very dangerous about guilt and shame when they're unjustified, as in this case. So sometimes they are, and sometimes guilt is intentional and it's good. But when it is unjustified, like with this, if you do things that the shame and the guilt, which is those two things put together, I guess, that reinforces it. So if you listen to the part of yourself that says, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing these activities, I shouldn't be like this, and you change who you are, you get off the apps, you stop being yourself, that is telling your brain and your body, oh, the guilt and the shame were effective because we stopped doing the thing, and we should be feeling guilt and shame because clearly we did this behavior, which means we should be feeling the way that we're feeling. And no. And no. Wrong direction. That's why we gotta do the opposite actions, because we have to reduce the intensity of the emotional reaction to the shame and the guilt. Because when you've spent so long avoiding it, ignoring it, or capitulating to the unjustified guilt and shame, it can take a long time to act on those things, just fucking bulldoze through the guilt and the shame emotions because they're going to be powerful, and then prove to yourself that you were alive, you're happy, or maybe even happier, and you're doing what you want. And that's good, because you need to think in terms of like, I'm living out my values by being who I am in a genuine and authentic way. Have that as your guiding light. Do the things over and over and over again. And then as you see that when you're doing the activities, the sky isn't falling, you aren't being rejected, you're having a happier life, that will reduce your internal feelings of guilt and shame slowly over time. But dealing with like religious trauma or like a traumatic homophobic background, that's a little outside of this territory, but this is one kind of like way that we can deal with it. This is from the DBT deck. This is the skill opposite to emotion. DBT is a whole beautiful, wonderful, complicated system for dealing with emotional processing, thinking complexly in a nuanced and dialectical way. It's fantastic. I love it. If you have the resources to do it, I highly recommend doing it with a therapist, but there are individual skills in this that I will occasionally recommend, especially with emotional regulation around things like negative emotions, because we are not given those skills. by our parents, in school, any damn where. We are taught to stuff down, ignore, not think about it, not feel it, and that causes a lot of negative repercussions long term, because when we think that not making a choice is like not doing an action, but still not doing something is still a choice. And if we are frozen in an action, that's bad. Or if we keep capitulating to the unjustified negative emotion, we are actually raising our response level to the negative emotion in the future, which is bad. Yes, it's very helpful for like overcoming guilt and shame with like kinks and stuff too. All of that. It's good stuff. DBT is like probably one of my favorite new psychological things of the last 20 years. Very helpful. And I think anything that's very systematized, like I think it's when you're doing kind of just like narrative therapy or whatever, like you got to do it with a therapist, and it's kind of this really long, convoluted, drawn out thread pulling process. And I think having DBT, because it's very like self-focused and it's very complex, and I think it doesn't shy away from things. I think CBT, I'm not like a huge fan of, this kind of borrows from that in some respects, is helpful, but this is so comprehensive and so inclusive that I think it's really easy to use it as a guiding light that is more concrete than just like pulling on threads like during therapy, right? But with that being said, we are 10 past. And Miss Bandita would really like to have dinner. So we are going to go. Thank you all so much for being with us on this Friday. We have streamed so many hours this week. We have strum. We have strum today. We strum on Wednesday, on Tuesday, on Monday. I'm a regular full-time streamer, y'all. I'm doing it. But we're going to be wrapping up for tonight, y'all. I need to rest my voice. Thank you all so much for being with me here. Hopefully I will see you around very soon. New video very soon. It is a long one. It is almost an hour. I am not kidding you. It's almost an hour. Have some content for your post-Christmas break. And yes, it does take time to unlearn and correct past patterns. So be gentle with yourself. It is a process, but it is also possible. And learning that it is possible to change the way that you think and the way that you react to things is so powerful, because you can be authentic to who you are, and you can also get unstuck from like literal decades of like maladaptive reactions. Like, sorry, I'm saying goodbye, but this is like a really important point to all of this. Like, this is why I believe in it. You can be who you are and also empower yourself to respond in new ways that make you feel good about yourself. Like, if you are the kind of person where you're in a relationship and you like withdraw because you're like, this is too hard, they're mad at me, I don't want to talk to them because I'm scared of saying the wrong thing. Okay, that's fine. That's based on a very long history of like bad shit, I'm sure. But if you want to show up in this relationship in a new and different way, you can choose to stop running away. You can choose to turn around and face things. You can choose to, instead of getting road rage, you can choose to visualize the people around you in their cars as like having complex lives and problems that are causing them to maybe not be as good of a driver today as you want them to be. And that's okay. They're not a bad person. They just got fired from work, or they found out that they have the flu, or their kid's sick at home. You know, like, things happen. Have compassion. Have compassion, everyone, both to yourself and to other people. I think that's really possible. I think we can have compassion. It's important. It's possible. Do it. And on that note, again, we're gonna really wrap up for realsies. Talk to you all later. Have a safe weekend. Have a fun, happy New Year if you're celebrating. Have a good rest of your break if you're on one. And I'll